Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be painting this 3D printed gnome mini. This one in particular is from Artisan Guild. This is their Warlock Janto from the Beetroot Gnome pack, and I'm going to be painting him entirely in contrasts to try and get a quick and easy painting scheme. I got it as part of a Patreon reward, but it is also available as an individual purchase from my mini factory. Link in the description below. So, you've seen how I've printed him. Let's get to painting. First up, I have some Guilliman's flesh, and this will be to do all of the fleshy bits on him. So I'm going to load up my brush, and if you've never painted with contrast paints, the trick is to actually glob it on quite thickly. Then when you're done, just with one area, don't go back, move on to the next area and let it settle. As it settles, that paint will create all of your highlights and lowlights for you. So you'll see when I'm done with an area, I won't really go back there. I'll skip up to above his eyebrows and carry on there. So I'm going to go along now and paint his wee little face and his fingers and any other bits that I can see are sticking out that are flesh. That flesh tone is applied, and you can see how it's created all the highlights and shadows for me. I'm now going to move on to Talisar Blue. It's a very, very vibrant blue, and I love this for more magical type of minis. And I'm going to use this color on his robe. It's a nice focal central point. So I'm going to take my time and just be careful not to get onto the beetroot or the belt buckle or anything else. Just go, and you can already see there how it's creating those highlights for me. So one quick coat of this all over his robe, and let's see how that looks. With that Talisar Blue applied, he is looking super vibrant. I honestly really love this color. Now, one thing to keep in mind with contrast paints, if you've never painted with them before, is that you always want to paint over a uniform color. So you'll see I've splodged once or twice, a little bit there and on his shoe, and there's a few places where it's gone a bit over. So it's quite important with contrast to go back to your base coat. In this case, I've primed him with Wraithbone from Citadel. So I've got a little bit on a brush here, I've watered it down quite heavily. What I'm going to do is go around wherever I've splodged. I'm just going to go over and make that uniform. So when I do go and paint the next color over it, it's got a nice uniform layer to build up from. With that little cleanup done, next up I've got some Achromatic Blue. And with this, I'm going to give him a little bit of a differentiation in blues by painting his little shoulder pads with this color. And if you look at that, it's going to make a very nice distinction between the highlighted areas, the raised areas, and the grooves behind it. So I'm going to go along with this sort of greeny blue color, pick all that out. The other thing I'm going to do with this color is wherever I've got little rune stones, such as on the belt there, on the ground there, I'm just going to take a tiny bit and just put it in the gaps where the runes are. It's okay if I overflow a little bit, because it'll make it look like it's glowing. That's kind of just when I paint those runes, make them look a bit more magical. That blue is applied, and he is looking great. You can even see the magical effects glowing there. Next up, I've got some Gore Grunter fur. This is a brown with a tiny bit of red to it. What I'm going to do with this is paint all of the leather bits. So I've got some on my brush here. When I say leather bits, what I'm talking about is the braces that he's wearing. You'll see it'll instantly go into those grooves. Make some great colors for us. That's the color it's going to come to, like almost a warm tanned leather. So with that on there, I'm also going to use the same color for his belt to tie them together, as well as his boots. I could see being made out of the same leather. So I'm going to go around now and just pick out all of these leather bits in Gore Grunter fur. And with that, you'll see all the leather bits are now painted. His boots, his belt, his braces, as well as the strap on his eye patch, the strap holding that spell scroll together, and the little strap on his haversack. Speaking of the haversack, I now have some wildwood, which is a much darker brown. And with that, I'll be painting a few things. First of all, the aforementioned haversack will be in this darker brown, just to give it some variation in tone. I'll also go with this color and paint his pants that are sticking out there. It's a very nice dark color to paint these areas. And finally, I'm also going to use this to paint all his hair and beard. You'll see, especially on the hair, how it goes and sinks into those recesses. And if you look there on the eyebrow, you'll see exactly what I mean, the highlights. With that done, his face is all looking very complete and this model's coming along nicely. Next up, I've got a tiny bit of Griff Charger Grey. This color here is almost like a blue gray, very light, very thin. What I'm going to do with this is just use a tiny bit to paint his eye patch thing, his Mad Eye Moody-esque contraption he wears here. You'll see that looks quite nice there already. As well as I'm going to use this color on the rune stones, just avoiding the blue in the middle. It's okay if it goes over a little bit, or blend quite nicely and make a nice effect. And while we're painting that runestone on the base, I also have here a tiny drop of Skeleton Horde, and this I'm just going to use to paint that spell scroll. Now we come to the fun part, these fireballs in his hand. I've got here 3 different colors: Iandon Yellow, Griffhound Orange, and Blood Angels Red. I'm going to be going from light to dark with them. I'll show you in a second. With the Iandon Yellow, I'm just going to be focusing for the actual orbs themselves, the lowest part of the fireball. That is my main goal here, to start with the yellow. But the other thing I want to do is to sort of blend it as it goes up. So make sure I'm getting the whole orb, and then I'm going to go just a tiny bit up there. I'll eventually be painting the orange over that, but let's say it's about that point. I'll paint the Iandon Yellow. I'm going to do the same for the other fireball now. With that yellow applied, I've now got some of the Griffhound Orange. I'm going to start about there, and that's going to be orange. And then go down, I'm going to mix in with that yellow to make almost like a little blended effect. And then do the same on the side, starting around there so we get some orange, and then blending in with that yellow. I'll leave the orb completely yellow, but I want a sort of blended effect at the bottom. And then with the Blood Angels Red, I'm going to start right at the top so we get that vibrant red, and then go down a little bit into the orange again for a bit of a blend. And with that, we have a very pretty fireball in about 5 seconds using contrast paints. Before I do the same on the other side, I will take a bit of the red and just also pop in his titular beetroots. These are Beetroot Gnomes after all, so I want them to stand out. I also think this will be a gorgeous color to paint the potion bottles with, so that they look like health potions. The fireballs are now looking amazing, as well as the beetroots taking shape, and there are the potions. One more thing we need to do, I've got a tiny bit of orc flesh just to finish off these beetroots by painting in the leafy bits. And for the last color, I've got some Black Templar. I have mixed it down with some contrast medium so it's not as dark, and I'm just going to go along and paint all of the flagstones. After that, I'll just put a black rim around the base. I won't use contrast for that, just use normal Abaddon black, and then we'll see how he looks. And with that, our Beetroot Gnome is complete. This file was an absolute joy to print. It came pre-supported and the supports were expertly done, and painting was a breeze with contrast paints. This model is very beautifully detailed in terms of the recesses and all the fine detail, including the little eyebrows. Artisan Guild I highly recommend for fellow 3D printers out there, or just getting it printed from someone else to paint up for yourself. This was a super quick and fun paint job using contrast paints. I hope you enjoyed following along with me. If you did, pop a like down below and leave a comment if you've got any suggestions. This is a fairly new channel and I'm always open to suggestions, whether they be painting related or channel related. Until the next time, I'll see you soon.